back to How to Student. Today we are talking about a really useful extension called Read and Write for Google Chrome. Read and Write for Google Chrome helps you with reading for information. It helps you understand and break down different online texts, and it also can help you with writing. Today though, we are specifically looking at the reading functions because there's a lot to cover with it. Okay? I do have to apologize. I'm recording this from home, so you may hear or see various dogs and cats running around. Right? So step one is to make sure you have the Google extension. You can look up in the right-hand corner. That's where all the buttons are to your extensions. I call it my toolkit. And if you have the purple puzzle piece with RW, then you have it and you're set and you can ignore me for the next couple minutes. If you don't, there's a couple things to try. So the first is to click on your extension manager. It's this little blobby thing. You're going to click that, and you might notice that it's listed under here as an extension, but it's not listed up here. So the way to fix that is to click the push pin, and you'll notice that it appeared. Simple, you're done, you're good to go. If it's not listed at all on here, you're going to click Manage Extensions, or you're going to search for it in your Google Chrome search bar. And you're going to look for Read and Write for Google Chrome, and then add the extension. It's pretty easy once you've gotten practice. It's just like what we did with Cami. Now, it's important to pin it because that makes it the most useful. You can get to it really quick and easy. Okay? So now that we've done that, we have this practice article. Now, teachers may send you to different websites or to read different news articles, and this will work with any of those, including in Google Docs. However, for the sake of this, we're just using this one, which is about how the gray wolves are going to be reintroduced to Colorado. Okay. To make the bar appear that you need, you're going to click on your puzzle piece. It might take a second to load, depending on how fast your internet is. Mine's pretty slow. Okay, so you see the toolbar. Don't worry, it looks like a lot, but it's okay. Some of these we're going to use today, and some of these we're going to use later when we get into the right portion of things. But you can, we'll just jump right in. You see how there's this button over here? This is the first tool that I want you to learn about because I think it's super helpful. It helps me. It's called Simplify Page. So as you guys know, when you go to a website, before you read anything, you kind of like look to see if it's a reliable source. And there's a bunch of ways we do that. We've talked about this before. But one of the ways we get an idea of where the article is coming from, where the money is, that sort of thing, is we look at advertisements, which is okay. We're like, okay, we see that it's sponsored by these people. We see that it looks organized or it doesn't look organized. And that's important. But after we've decided, okay, this source is something I want to use, or this is definitely an article that my teachers are having me use, all of that extra stuff makes it hard to focus. At least for me, I know that if I'm trying to read a recipe on Pinterest, but all of like these videos are popping up and all these ads are everywhere, I mean, it's really hard to focus. So Simplify Page does a great job. If you click it, it might take some time to load because of the amount of ads that are in each individual website. But you can see a lot of that extra stuff is gone now. We've got the title, we've got the picture, and we've got the article. Okay. Sometimes if it doesn't load quite the way you want, you can do it a couple of times or refresh, and that can help, just as like a little troubleshooting thing. Now, once you've simplified it, there's a few things you can do that I think are like super exciting. And one of those things, well, both things involve the font. So if you click on the font here, you have two options. And for me, like, I need font bigger because my eyesight is not the greatest. And to do that, you just scroll this to a bigger size, and so that might make it easier to read for you. Or you might be like, okay, settle down, that is too big, and you can make it smaller. You can also, this is one of my favorite things, change the font. Now that might seem silly to some people, but I think that changing the font can be a really great way of making reading a little bit easier. Certain fonts can be really hard to read, and everybody's different. Some people like scrolly fonts, some like it bolder, some want thinner font words, but like this gives you so many options, which I love, including Open Dyslexic. So that's a really great one if you are struggling with dyslexia. It makes reading online a little bit easier. Okay, so this is what it looks like on Simplify. When you go back, you'll notice a big difference. You can see how much they actually took out of the page. Okay. So that's the first one I would recommend. The next thing I want to show you is the text to speech button. It's called Hover Speech. It's this one on the left. It looks like a little speech bubble with an arrow. It's useful, but it can be a little temperamental. So don't be surprised if it kind of sasses you a little bit. It's definitely been sassy to me. So you click it, and you see how all of these other things have been grayed out. So in order to get your other options back, you have to click the bubble again, and then they reappear. Okay, so we're going to click this while we're in speech function, and I'm going to click right down here. And you'll see that it highlights it and reads it out loud.
In Colorado, a historic ballot measure to force the state to reintroduce gray laws has passed by the slimmest of margins. Proposition 114 for every state.
Okay, so there's a pause button and a stop button that allow you to take, like you can stop and be like, okay, this is the answer to my question, let me write it down. Or, oh, here's a note I need to take because that's important. I will say that the time it lets you pause can be pretty short. So you either need to like click off of it for a second and re-click it, or just write kind of fast, which all of you I'm sure can do. But it's really useful. It might be a robotic voice, but sometimes I find following along and listening while reading, it can be really helpful in gathering information. That reading for information part can be really hard, and so any support we can have is really useful. The next thing I think is really helpful, these two functions. They're both dictionaries. So normally when I'm reading an article and I don't know what a word is, I have to open another tab or look it up on my phone while I have the article pulled up, and it's sort of a pain. This does it right within the article, so you don't have to do any of that. Really saves some time and energy. So I'll give you an example. Let's see. We're gonna go with wildlife. We know what that means, but we're gonna try it out. You're gonna click and drag to highlight it, just like you would on a Word doc, and then click the book, and it says dictionary, and it will define it for you. So all living things except people that are undomesticated. Okay, so it will give you the definition really quick right there, easy, no extra tabs. And then we're going to do it with the picture and see what happens. Oh, I didn't select the word. User error. Okay. And you can see it gives you a picture definition. So if you really like to be visual and get some context clues, this is very helpful to do that. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to highlight. And this is very similar to Cami. It's similar to Google Docs. So I think that this will be pretty easy for you guys. So you can click and drag just like you would to copy and paste something. And then you just click one of these really appealing colors to highlight it. Oh, that one's a little bright. We're just going to change that. That was a lot. Okay, and so you can do this to annotate text if your teacher's asking you to annotate it. You can use this to pick out main ideas to answer questions or for evidence finding for your papers. So there's a lot of ways to use this. But the other way you can use it is to highlight words you don't know. So first, let's highlight this. And then if you highlight and use this broom, like you're sweeping it all away, it takes away your highlights. If you went through and like highlighted a couple of different words that you weren't sure, so maybe your teacher's like, okay, build me a vocabulary list. And we highlighted a couple of words. You can click vocabulary and it opens up your Google Docs and makes a beautiful chart with pictures and definitions to help you remember things. So if your teacher asks you to do that, or if you decide you want to, just to help you learn things a little bit more, this function is great. Now I'm not going to click it because I haven't given Read and Write permission to use my Google, but I definitely recommend using this. It's great. So the last thing I want to show you before we get too far into things, or before, while we're wrapping things up, is this function. It is the screen mask. So we talked about how all of this extra stuff can be overwhelming, and I don't know about you, but if I'm reading on a website or an article online, I get lost sometimes. So I might read the line and then be like, oh wait, like where was I? What just happened? This button really is amazingly helpful because it highlights just a certain part of your reading. So it makes it easier to remember where you are, keep track of where you are, and it helps with focus so you can pay attention to what you're reading and not all the gobbledygook around it. Okay, so this could be useful for a variety of reasons. All right. So those are most of the functions I'm going to go over today for the write portion, and I will do another article or another video, don't mind me, about the writing portion of what Read and Write can do for you. I hope you guys have a great day. Sorry this was a bit longer. I'll try to keep it shorter next time. Okay, bye.